We are here.
Boom. What's going
Thursday.
on, man?
Dude, it's going on. It's Thursday. It's 8:30. I'm excited about our guest tonight.
Yes. No, so am I. For those of you that don't know, this guy, I would call him as politely as I can, like the dinosaur of the East Coast. And he's got more knowledge and more experience on the East Coast than anyone that I personally know. And, you don't get that any other way than being out there and doing it every day. So
every day. And I mean, I've been watching this guy for a long time, and to finally get to talk to him and pick his brain, and it's going to be a nice show, a good show.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So before we get into that, what else, what have you been doing today, Joe? Have you had a hard day? You all right? I'm stressed.
It's been no. I mean, my truck's down, work's piling up. It's just another day in the life of Joe. But I mean, this weekend I'm going to try to get out and go fishing. I got Sunday, nothing planned really, no kids, so I got to get out and get something going. There's a lake I want to fish. It's quite deep and it has some pretty good ledges. It's an old phosphate mine, so. Last time we went out there, we wrecked them pretty good. Me and Matt Thompson, we got them out deep on a Carolina rig with a tap out, bass assassin tap out. I really like that worm. I like it on a shaky head, but he really put me on the Carolina rig. And he uses a different brand of straight worm, but the tap out has a little bit of float to it. And I think that's what made the difference that day. He kind of kept it on the bottom, but floated off the bottom a little bit. And that's when I got bit. So hopefully I get to go out and do that for at least a few hours and unwind a bit before it starts all over again on a Monday.
Now, at some point, people got to stop sleeping on the tap out because it's been literally producing fish all year long.
Dude, it's a good and a bad thing. It's good because no one throws it and I can just slay on it. And it's nice to pull up. It's nice to fish with somebody who does the classic trick worm and you have the tap out and you're just laying in. Yeah. And then I make believers of people, after they fish with me a little bit on that. But it's a great worm on a shaky head, guys. I use a bruiser bait shaky head with the tap out, and it has a little bit of a longer shank, so I get a better hookup ratio. And that little tail, that little bulbous tail at the end, I think is what gives it the action it needs to get it done. It kind of floats a little bit, and you kind of just jiggle it down there into the brush pile or wherever you're fishing, the ledge, the rocks, the shells, and it gets bit. So tap out.
I really want you to make my ringtone on my phone. Just some cool sounds. I don't know.
I need to get like a scary one though to wake you up. Like I'll figure something out.
Dude, I have problems waking up in the morning. I don't have problems waking up. I have problems getting out of bed. I don't want to do it sometimes.
Sometimes I don't know if it's even morning or what it is. Like I'm just a noise comes from my phone and I just grab it and take a shower and go.
Right.
And then at some point I lay down.
So here's the deal. We've got some awesome things coming down the pipeline for NextFish, and I've been working with Georgia Turner with West Volusia Tourism for a little while now, and we're finally developing some cool things that I'm stupidly stoked to introduce it all. But it's gonna be next week. It's going to be hopefully Thursday, and I think we're going to have Dave on Thursday. So all you Dave fans out there that have missed Dave,
I know Brian Scaife is missing Dave.
Yes,
that's like his biggest fan. Like
there he is.
There he is.
There he is.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, no, I knew he was watching.
I felt him. Like you feel Dave.
How can you not? If you're in the same room, never mind. I'll be nice. Dave, we miss you and we love you, buddy.
We do, bud.
No, so with all that being said, this is based entirely around local tourism. So it's as if anybody knows anything about local tourism, it's all about heads in beds. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish some media around basically just the tourism arena, and we're going to pinpoint each individual market that we can. Oh yeah. Oh, Kevin.
Oh my God!
I got to show you guys something real quick.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm going to be in your inbox here in like 32 minutes. Just be prepared.
You got these here, and
some things I need from you.
If I get stuck, it's all right. But I've gotten.
You're definitely going to get stuck, man. Those things are sharp.
I grabbed some tornado trebles, and my guy Kevin over there in the comments, ties, custom feathers, everything on it. And I just like, look at the beauty of this thing. Just look at it.
Look at it. Respect it.
One. We're going to bring up another one.
Respect it. Look at that.
Boom.
A little bumblebee action.
Oh, dude.
Little insect action. Yeah.
One I'm excited about that I didn't know that I was going to be excited about till I saw it, and I didn't know I was getting it, was this one.
Dude, that one's
blue,
clean.
just for whatever reason tells me, like, I'm thinking nighttime. I'm thinking nighttime topwater, to be honest.
Dude, I was going to say that might look really nice on the back of that gunfish.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
More to come, he says. More to come. But no, man, I definitely appreciate that. And yeah. I'm so excited right now. But listen, dude, David, they are nice. They are nice. Let's get Captain Jim Ross in here. We've got a short little commercial break from our buddies over at Power Pole. Joe, you got the helm, or you need me to do it?
I think we're just going to go to commercial break, and then we're going to bring in the legend himself, Jim Ross.
Do it.
You let me see. Things you let me see.
There he is.
There he is.
Man himself. Captain Jim Ross, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight, Andrew?
Oh, well, I'm here. Joe's having mouse problems. He's a battery short.
Kind of problems. Mouse problems, battery problems, truck problems. It's going down in Highlands County right now. Let me tell you, Jim.
As long as you get them done in threes, man, you can get rid of them for a while and smooth sailing, and then the next three will hit it.
Exactly.
I guarantee.
Pile it on, take care of it, and go fishing. That's my motto.
Absolutely. So, Jim, tell us about yourself. What do you do? I know what you do, but tell everybody what you do, how long you've done it, where you do it, and what drives you to do it. I'm excited about this.
Well, I've been guiding full time for 24 years now. I've been a mate a couple of years before that. I've messed with saltwater fishing since I was about 10-ish, 9 or 10-ish.
Like 1903, 1904?
Something like that. I look good for 105. You know what I mean? Or 115. I grew up in Rockledge. I'm a third-generation native of the East Central Florida area. My grandfather moved here in 1936 when he was a young man. My mom was born here, and I was born here, of course. And I grew up spending summers at my grandmother's house over in Cocoa, right near the water tower. And so a lot of those summers, I just ran barefoot up and down the sides of the Indian River, picking up clam shells and dip net and pipe fish and shrimp and crabs and catching catfish and trout and anything else that would hit whatever I picked up off of the bank, or dip netted. And so I've always had a passion for fishing. I've always had a passion for the outdoors. And then I got into some freshwater fishing. We moved to Levitt Park in Rockledge, and it's a little community, little subdivision that kind of had its own little community of fishing kids. And we'd all pedal our bikes around from ditch to ditch and pond to pond, and throw man's jelly worms. And hula poppers and all that old school stuff, the snagless Sally inline spinner baits, things of that nature. Uncle Josh pork rinds. Geez, I can't tell you how many jars of that I spilt in my pocket. My mom just went through the Tide and the laundry detergent like crazy. But I grew up fishing and doing those sorts of things. And my grandfather on my dad's side moved here in 1964. And he was a veteran of the Guadalcanal era. And he really enjoyed his freedom, and he really enjoyed his time to just chill. And so those things led me to become sort of the fisherman that I am today, because my grandfather on my mom's side moved here in 36, and he actually was a commercial trout fisherman. My grandfather on my dad's side moved here in 64, and he couldn't care less if there was a bait on his hook or not. He was using me as an excuse to go down to the shoreline, because my grandmother wouldn't let him sit around the house or the garage or the shop and drink beer and smoke cigars. So he'd call all his buddies up and say, hey, let's meet at such and such. Let's go meet it here on the Banana River, here on the Indian River. And they'd all show up with their 6-pack or 12-pack of, PBR or Carling's Black Label or whatever it was they were drinking at the time, Bush and Old Milwaukee. I can remember all of those things being drunk.
God.
And we'd swing through the bait shop, and we'd get me a little plastic container of shrimp. And, I had my pole, and he had his pole. And of course, he didn't know come here from Sikkim, came to, fishing. So he'd put a dead shrimp on, and he'd cast it out there, and, the shrimp would go that way and the weight would go that way. And I'd go, hey, Granddad, I'm here. I am 8 or 9. Hey, your bait came off. Let me reel it back in and get you another one. And he'd go, nah, it's okay. Just leave it out there. Maybe something will bite it. Right. It wasn't about the fishing. It was about just being able to have the freedoms and honestly drinking a beer, smoking a cigar, and not getting shot at or threatened to be killed, because you were in some foreign land fighting some, foreign enemy. Mm-hmm. So between the two grandparents, that my grandfather on my dad's side, like I said, was just more. It was more about just relaxation. My grandfather on my mom's side was a commercial fisherman, but he didn't have any time for kids. I don't have time for all that. I didn't want to mess with the grandkid. Well, I got to be about 11 or 12 and really had caught the bug. And I was actually a halfway decent fisherman at that point. And so I got to start fishing with my grandfather on my mom's side a little bit. And he took me to places like Black Point and Mosquito Lagoon. We'd fish Tiger Shoal, or we'd fish in the back of Pardon Slough, or we'd fish, what now is called Tournament Bar. We just called it the East Flat at that time. We'd just go different places and catch trout after trout after trout. And we use pigfish primarily. And the thing that was really cool about using pigfish was I got to dip the bait out and then, get it out and hand it to him with the little dip net. And then I'd try and hook myself up one and throw it out. And, so I had to learn how to handle things, and pinfish too. So I had to learn how to handle those things without getting stuck too bad and coming home looking like a pin cushion. But it was my grandfather on that side he was the businessman. He was hey, we got to catch these trout. We got to get to the fish market kind of thing. And if you're sitting there making all a bunch of noise, I'll leave you home next time. So he was kind of the sit down, shut up guy, where my other grandfather was, hey, run up and down the bank, throw a stick, skip a clamshell, throw rocks, do whatever you want to do. Just have fun running around being a kid. Kick that catfish. No, he told me don't kick that catfish. In fact, that was one of my life lessons. Don't kick the catfish. Listen to your grandfather. He knows. Don't kick the catfish because it will go through your tennis shoe. But you combine all of that freedom and that ability to explore and those experiences with a guy that was really, really technical and caught a lot of fish. In fact, I can remember in many cases, it was like, we catch a 3.5, 4 pound trout and he'd go, put that little one back in the water. We're not keeping that little one. And nowadays on a charter, if we catch a 4 pound trout, heck, I'm like, whoo, it's a pretty good trout. But he was accustomed to catching 7, 8, 10, 12 pound trout, way back in the day. And even into the early 70s, he was really good at it. And the fishing was that good. I mean, we could do that. So growing up with those sorts of influences, that created the drive. And then I got laid off. I went to school, was working my way up through corporate America, and I got laid off one day. And it was about a month after I got Employee of the Month. And that made me realize that I didn't want to ever have to work for somebody again. I didn't want to have to be worried about being hired or fired. I didn't want to be a number. I wanted to be a name. I wanted to be Jim Ross. Well, what's Jim good at? Well, as Andrew knows, they weren't paying any money to watch the girls play volleyball while I was sitting there on the beach drinking Budweiser. Budweiser wasn't hiring any taste testers at the time. So that job was out. Kelly Slater was ripping it up on the surf scene, but he was a way better surfer than me, and I wasn't joining him on the World Surfing Tour anytime soon, not with my skill sets. So I fell back into, the fishing realm. And so it was a passion that I had always had. I had dreamed about going through corporate America, getting to that level where I could retire comfortably and then fishing the rest of my life. And when that fell through, I said, well, why put it off? Let's do it now. So I started working as a mate for a couple of different captains and then went on to, start doing my own charters. And so over the years, I've done everything from 12 inches of water in Mosquito Lagoon to 120-mile buoy offshore Port Canaveral. Just so whether it's, yellow jacks, crevalles, or dolphin or yellowfin tuna, I've pretty much gone out and caught it. I mean, there's very few fish that I haven't caught. I haven't ever caught a white marlin. I haven't ever caught a bluefin tuna, but pretty much everything else that swims. Oh, and I haven't actually landed a swordfish. I've had some on, but I haven't actually landed one. But other than that, there's not a whole lot I haven't caught. So those experiences growing up, the experiences that I had as a mate and in my early charter career, really helped make me a very, very well-rounded angler. And so, like Andrew was saying earlier, I've been around a long time, and he's right. I'm 53, going 54 in another month, and some days it does feel like I'm 105. Other days, you're like a kid, man. You're just like, oh, I got to get out there. I can't wait. You were talking a little bit about you couldn't sleep, right? Having a hard time sleeping. If I think there's going to be a bite tomorrow, if the moon, the tide, the wind, everything, the base, there's all lined up, dude, I'm the same way. I cannot go to sleep. I'll wake up 14 times during the night. I don't want to miss it. I don't want to, did my alarm go off yet? Yeah. And it's one of those things where you just go, but that's what the passion is. That's what the joy of it is. That's what we all want to do. Mm-hmm. If we're 9 to 5, if we're blue collar, if we're second shifters, if we're third shifters, we all want to be able to get out there and make that time for ourselves on the water and feel that joy, feel that adrenaline rush when that snook slams that topwater plug, or that king mackerel skyrockets that mullet that you've been slow trolling for 3 hours without a bite. And all of a sudden, there he is, and he's in the air, and you see mullet hanging out both sides of his mouth. Those hours that you wait are worth those seconds that you get to have that exhilarating feeling come up in you and just get that excitement going. And that's what's so cool about fishing. And that's why I've stayed in this business as long as I've stayed in this business.
That's awesome, Jim. And the best thing about it is you get to experience this every single day.
Pretty much.
Is your job. It's awesome. But like you said, it's a passion, dude. It's hard to describe, but I grew up the same way. That's how I got into fishing. My dad, we would, sneak off on a Sunday. He'd come on, let's sneak off. It'd be 5 a.m. And I knew that Saturday when I heard him come in, he'd work late nights, 10 o'clock. He'd come in, I hear that door close. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going fishing tomorrow. It was getting late night, and he wouldn't sleep. We'd be up at 4 or 5 a.m. and we'll head out I grew up in Homestead. So we'd head out to the Everglades and fish the Everglades. And, just with a night crawler and a cane pole, so I started. And now here I am, nowhere near the legend himself, Jim Ross, but but it is that passion, and if you're going fishing the next day, man, I'm up at 4 a.m. tying things and just waiting for that bite, waiting for that 5 seconds. That's awesome, dude.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
That's awesome.
So what's going on right now in your area, Jim? What's the hot bite right now?
I've been waiting for the redfish to kind of school up for their spawning ritual, but I don't know what's going on. We've got, the East Coast, we've done a really good job of trying to destroy the Indian River and Banana River Mosquito Lagoon complex as human beings. We've done a pretty good job of it. Yes. And every year is a new testimony to the ability of Mother Nature to come back, even no matter what we throw at her. This year, I'm waiting for those redfish to school up because you'll get 200, 300, 400 redfish in a school. We used to get schools of 800 to 1,000 breeder reds, this big 40 to 50 inch redfish. But now it's, if we get a school of 250, 300 fish, that's a pretty good sized school. And so we throw some top water plugs at them, catch a couple of them, and then, go about the rest of our day, catching slots and trout and different things like that. But the excitement of those bulls just blowing up on a top water plug, fighting 4, 5, 6 fish fighting over a top water is pretty cool. So that's what we're going to look to do here in the next 4 to 5 weeks. And then offshore, the king mackerel bite's been just ridiculous. We've had dolphin. We've had a lot of cobia this year. We're pulling the bull sharks up. We're throwing gigantic chugger plugs over some of the near shore wrecks that are in 50 to 75, 80 feet of water, and some of the reefs too, throwing these big chuggers and just creating a lot of commotion on the surface. Those bull sharks are coming up and the cobia are following the bull sharks. So then we're sight casting, to the bull sharks. What's interesting about that is over the years, I've learned you have to run a real light drag to actually land the cobia. And the reason is if you start putting pressure on it, and if the bull shark's coming along and the cobia that are following, if they get anywhere past that bull shark's dorsal fin and pec fins, where the bull shark actually can catch him in his peripheral vision,
they're done.
It turns into a bloodbath quick.
Oh, wow.
So as long as you hook the fish and get the cobia to go the other way, or he stays behind the fish, he can struggle, he can turn cartwheels, he can do whatever he wants to. As long as he stays behind the pec and dorsal fins on the bull shark will keep going forward. But you keep him back there and he can struggle and kind of wear himself out. And then if you'll just let him go the opposite direction, then fight him, a lot of times you can land him. So just learning little techniques like that. Here I am in my 50s and it's taken me all this time to kind of find this fishery and then refine how I fish those fish in that particular scenario. And then the other thing we have going on is the mullet run's getting ready to start right now. And of course, mullet just bring out the best in everything. The fall mullet run turns even the smartest fish into a dumb one. And I'm talking about really dumb. And when you get some dumb fish that are hungry, and that's my favorite kind of fish.
Easy fish.
You guys can mess with the smart ones all day long. Give me the dumb ones. That's the ones I want to cast at. And that's going to happen. This past week we had the first trickle of mullet coming down the beach. The snook, tarpon, king mackerel have all started to respond, with the exception of Wednesday. I don't know what the heck happened on Wednesday. We couldn't get them to eat anything. I don't know what the problem was, but it was just I think it was that groundswell that was coming in off of Hurricane Larry. It was starting to kick in, and when they feel that wave energy, they know something's up. And there was a very small flurry right at the top of the tide, and then nothing the whole rest of the time, which was really untypical of that particular bite and the way it's been the last week or so. But, we're going to have some stronger waves now. We're going to have some 5, 6, 7 foot waves coming in and crashing. And that's going to do two things. One, it's going to muddy the water up along the beach. And two, it's going to make that push of mullet get much, much thicker, because there's a triggering mechanism that makes the mullet start to run. And one of those, there's a couple of triggering mechanisms. One of them is that heavy swell off of a tropical storm or a hurricane. And so now we've got that. So we're going to get that mullet run going in full force. And I'm really excited about getting back out on the water, starting about Sunday or Monday, because it's going to be a little dirtier. They won't be able to see as good. They're going to know that the swell's going away, and the mullet are going to be thick as they can be, and the predator fish are going to start chewing really good again. So I'm excited about that.
No, that's awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. During that mullet run, is there any artificial that you can throw at them? Are they that dumb where you can sneak an artificial and get bit?
Every part of it, yeah.
Literally anything you want, you can get them to bite, huh?
I use a lot of the topwater, the storm chug bug in the large size. I use a lot of those in that mullet pattern. The snook will eat them, but I primarily target bluefish, jacks, ladyfish with them. Now this is an opportunity type of a scenario.
Right. One
cast can be a 12-inch trout. When you're fishing in the surf and along the beaches, one cast can be a 12-inch trout with a 4-inch, saltwater assassin sea shad on a quarter. I like to normally throw on a 3/8 or even sometimes a 1/2 ounce
Right.
size head. The very next cast with the exact same bait can be 120-pound tarpon.
That's insane.
Because you don't know what's underneath that next mullet pod. And what's
Right.
really cool about the mullet pod fishing is when you get to an area where you see them blowing up, they're just knocking baits in the air. I mean, you could throw your hat, your flip flop, your koozie. It doesn't really matter. If they see something moving, they'll start to chase it.
Can I throw a
they won't
coconut?
always hit it. Yeah, a coconut. They won't always hit it, but they will chase it. If it moves, they'll chase it. And those are those dumb, hungry fish that we talked about. And, the snook bite gets great. The king mackerel come to the beach. They'll be in 15, 12 feet of water, skyrocketing the mullet. And this is the time of a year where you just never know. I mean, the next cast could be 180 pound. I mean, we had 150, 160 pound spinner shark that hit a topwater the other day. Now, you know what happened to that?
Cool.
We lost the plug because spinner
right.
sharks do what spinner sharks do. But you just never know. You just don't know what it's going to be. And we've got 4 to 5 solid weeks of mayhem fishing, if you will. That's what's happening here between now and about the 2nd or 3rd week of October.
No,
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Now, do you still have some openings if someone wants to get involved in this mayhem right now?
I've got 4 days open left in September, and I've got a pretty good number of days in October. I've only got maybe 6 or 7 days booked in October right now, so there's time. I like the days leading into the new and full moons better than the days after, but the days after you just kind of adjust things. The bite's typically later, and so you just don't start at 7 a.m. unless you really want to. Some guys want to do a full day, and even on an off day when the mullet run's going on, you can still have a pretty good morning bite a lot of times, even after a full moon or a new moon, when that bite is typically a 12, 1, 2 o'clock type of a scenario. And the day just ramps up, and by 2 o'clock, it looks like cannonballs being thrown in the water with all the explosions. And here's what's really cool. So the mullet are coming down the beach, and they're like a river. It's just like a river of mullet right on the outside of the surf break. And within that river mullet are all these predator fish. And the bigger the fish, the bigger the opening that the mullet make around the fish.
Okay.
So if you have the mullet, let's just say the mullet stream is 25 feet wide. And normally when it gets going, sometimes it's as long as you can see in both directions.
That's crazy.
If there's a bluefish or a jack in them, there'll be a 3 to 4 foot ring around the bluefish or jack. If there's a tarpon in them, there'll be an 8-foot ring around. The bigger the ring, the bigger the fish. And it's a really cool scenario where you and I, we guys like us that saltwater fish, we love to see that redfish tail pop up.
Oh yeah.
We love to see that, that jack just kind of cruising along, making that V wake so that you can sight cast to that fish. Well, when the mullet get that thick and they start opening up from around those predator fish, you can sight fish the predator fish without actually seeing the predator fish.
You just throw
You just know he's there because there's a hole in the mullet. So you make the and you see which way the hole's moving, and so you just make the presentation in front. And like I said, that normally the bigger the ring of mullet or in the mullet, the bigger the predator that they're trying to stay away from. So it's a pretty cool scenario.
Jim, we're gonna have to get the drone out there.
Dude, yeah. Like Andrew, can we book a day in
Fish
October?
in unison. Yeah, no, Jim, drop it there. Drop it there.
Let's book a day in October because that sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
that is insane.
It's really cool. It's really cool when it's going off.
And and like you said, that's coming up here in the next few weeks, right? So we got to get it while it's coming.
Yeah, I think I've got 2 days open the 3rd week of the month, 2 days open the 4th week of the month, and then in October, sometime after the 11th, I think I'm open back. I think I have an opening back up again.
Andrew, we might need to figure something out.
Yeah, no.
This sounds like something we need to get your drone flying around for sure, and take a look at some of them holes and see what kind of predators are lurking there.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool.
100%. I'm kind of trying to visualize this river of mullet.
Yeah.
Like it's such a cool visualization that you put in my mind, and all I see is like this like black line that's just like various widths just going down the breakers.
No.
Not fishing related, but it is. I took the kids this past weekend. Allison took the kids to basically Matanzas. It was just south of Fort Matanzas, north, right by Bing's Landing. And Emery wanted to go in the surf. So she's little. I carried her out. We were in like chest deep water. And I got so excited because like every so often there was these schools of finger mullet about that big. It would just like go all the way around me. And that was, as I'm excited, as I'm sitting there with Emery, I'm like, oh, we should probably get out of the water. Yeah. Probably shouldn't be right here with her like that. But it was just a really cool experience to see that. And like, now as the mullet run goes on, is it a similar size mullet all year long or all season long, or is it does it vary?
I got a little freeze frame on you there, so I missed everything you said after the finger mullet were that big. But those are the same finger mullet that are actually coming down the beach towards us right now.
Yes. Okay. Now, are they going to get bigger as they come along?
They seem to. You get the first thing you get is the finger mullet run. Well, the first thing you get in the Central East region that I'm in is around the Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach area. The first thing you get is in August. You get mullet moving north. Full-size mullet, normally striped mullet, and then silver mullet following them, moving north in August. And then right around the 1st of September, they kind of turn around and start to come back down. And you get a couple little runs of bigger fish, but then you get those fingerlings. And when you start getting those fingerlings, it isn't long after they start running that everything starts showing up in mass. And then you get a little later in the run, you start to get multiple sizes of bait fish running through. And then the end of the run is pretty much just large mullet coming down the beach again.
Right.
On a typical year.
Right. These pods were like at max about 50 to 100 fish, but as small as like 10 fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like varying, very, very split up. But I was saying,
he's talking about like a river of mullet,
Yeah, no, that's not what I saw. But like, I was standing there in the water with my daughter, and I'm like, this might not be the best place to be right now. Just deep water, I've got mullet swimming all around me, and I was like, oh, look at that. She's like, oh yeah, look at him. I was like, wait a second.
Like, where's the shark behind?
We need to do a little bit of movement and get up a little bit higher in the.
Yeah, we need to go get in ankle deep water.
But that's awesome. No. Andrew, we have got to get out there with Jim in October at some point.
Y'all come on up, man. I would love to get you out there. And then, later in the year, after that stops, we typically get some pilchards, a little pilchard run. And then right after that, the shrimp start. And then, you got cobia that will kind of come down the beach a little bit, not too close. A lot of times they'll be in the like 40 to 70 foot depths. And then the triple tail from Halloween till Christmas. That's when we get our good triple tail. Right now we've got a whole bunch of these little teeny 8-inch, 9-inch ones that are on some of the floating grass that came in off of that last little swell and blow that we had from that last storm that went by. Right. I'm sure we'll get a lot more of those. They'll start to get a little bigger, but from Halloween through Christmas, that's when we get, that's when you have a shot at a legitimate 20 to 25 and sometimes even 30-pound triple tail. So
that would be super.
Cool. Some monsters.
That's a big triple tail.
Yeah,
that's
monsters.
Huge.
Now, personally, the ones that are about 8 to 12 pounds eat the best, in my opinion. But, I'm not going to turn down a 25-pounder either.
No way. That'd be a huge triple tail. And what do you target to catch these triple tail? Is it the grass? Is it buoys or?
When there's grass and buoys in, when there's grass in, yes. When there's not grass, then the buoys are the main focal point. And anything that floats, though, can hold them. I mean, I've seen them. I'll tell you one of the best things, and it's kind of gruesome, but some of the best things is the gannets start to come back down in the fall time, and they make their migration back south as the bait fish are moving south. And gannets, for some reason, can dive 10,000 times and catch a fish, and then that next time they knock themselves unconscious or break their neck or something, and they die. They'll hit the water and you'll see them float back up, and they're stunned or knocked out or dead or something,
Oh, yeah.
And it's really an interesting scenario because after one of those has been on the water for a day or two, they don't sink. They birds just keep floating.
Kind of float, yeah.
And of course they start to decompose. What does that do?
Crabs.
What's a tripletail's favorite food?
Crabs.
Crabs. One of them anyway is crabs. And so what's interesting is if we have a huge number of gannets that are coming down, and you'll get, sometimes you'll see 3 or sometimes 4 or 5 dead ones floating on the surface at a time. And after they start to decompose, they become very, very good tripletail habitat, because the tripletail will sit with them waiting for the crabs to come and start to feed on them and just pick them off one by one as they come by.
If that is not the epitome of the circle of life, I would never even think of a dead bird, like targeting dead birds. That's and it happens in numbers like that, Jim. Like there's
when we get really big shoals of sardines and cigar minnows and things like that, pilchards coming down the beaches, and those birds are diving heavy on them, and I'm talking, there can be 800 or 1,000 birds. Right. When you get those kind of numbers, that's when you see that kind of a mortality rate within those numbers. If there's only a handful of birds, you're lucky if you find one that knocked himself out or did whatever he did. But when you get big shoals of bait fish and you get the birds on them like that, it can be pretty interesting for a couple of days, because you'll mark that, you'll man overboard that bird. And then you'll come back to them, 20 minutes later and see if there's another fish on them. And then you come back to them 20 minutes later, and you can keep coming back and just get your MOB. And he's going to be drifting along, but you can, the next day, sometimes you can go out and you can find that same bird again, and he'll have 3 or 4 fish under him. If you follow that track line and there's not too much current, you can run back out and reestablish where that bird's at, and then you can follow him the whole next day too. So
reload. That is insane.
Things like that I guess, being 119 years old, that's, I've seen stuff like this, and so
the knowledge you have
sticks in my memory bank.
I was just going to say that is what makes you a legend, Jim, because that's something I would have never thought of. Even like the cobia with the bull sharks, like that's just awesome. You drop the bull sharks to see the cobia, catch the cobia. Don't let them get past that dorsal fin. Or
Don't do it.
Andrew, we got to get out there. That's all.
It's like playing a video game. You need to figure out the secret level, man.
I'm going to be looking at everything so much more like intensely now as I'm going fishing. Do you see the grasshoppers? Do you see the way they're jumping? Like, what does that mean? I'm going to start figuring it out. Dude, that is awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. And that just goes to show like how much time and knowledge you have on the water, Jim. So,
I've been out there a day or two. That's for sure.
And to book a trip, well, I know we got your phone number down here, and that's your website down here as well, right? To get a hold of you and get something booked, right?
Yeah, that's my office number. If I don't pick it up, you can go to the website. You can click on my reservations tab. You can see my available dates. Everything's in real time. So if you pick a flats trip, whatever days I have available will immediately pop open. If you pick a nearshore trip, same thing. In roughly November, December, we kind of shut down the offshore stuff because I run a bay boat, and I'm not running a center console. I'm not running an offshore type boat anymore, and it gets a little rough at those times of the year. So to try to get somebody to consistently be able to go on an offshore trip is tough during the winter months. But pretty much all summer long we do some offshore stuff. So. But this time of the year is really it's near shore and that's where you really want to be, near shore and flats if the big reds start schooling.
That's saying something too, because the boats you run are like superiorly comfortable.
I love them. I run that 24 Skeeter bay boat, and it's a heck of a ride. I was sponsored by another company for a number of years prior to that, and rode in one of these pre-fishing a tournament in Louisiana one time, and I was like, oh, I need to go talk to these people, and and was fortunate enough that they were interested in talking to me, and was able to create a relationship there, and that's been a good relationship since 2008 for me. So in fact, I just ordered my 2022 boat, so I'm looking forward to.
Congrats, man.
I barely got the fresh scrubbed off of this one that's sitting in the side yard right now, this 2021, but it never hurts to have new fiberglass. That smell reinvigorates you. I think that new fiberglass smell, it'll decrease your crow's feet that you got going.
It keeps you young. That's what
listen, Uncle Jim, Christmas is right around the corner, and I know I'm ready for a present.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready, as long as you don't need a bank deposit or anything like that, I'm good to go.
I need a big write-off. Let me talk to my tax guy about that.
Yeah. No. So, on the other side of the spectrum, not only do you do Fineline Fishing Charters and with your charter business, but you've also got a radio show.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
every Saturday morning from 7 to 9, Catch a Memory Outdoors radio show.
Yep. Yeah. Rick Riles with Florida Sportsman signed me on to do Florida Sportsman Magazine Live back in 1998. It was. And so I've been doing radio now for like 23 years or whatever that turns out to be, 22 years, whatever that number is. I did 10 years for them, and then I've been doing my show for, since then. And it's become a really, really interesting thing. I had some incredible guests. I mean, just this past week, Blair Wiggins was on the show. We've had Blair's been on multiple times. Bree Gabrielle from the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Rick Murphy's been on the show in the past. Back when I was doing earlier in my radio days, I had Jose Wahebe on the show a couple of times. Just some really neat people. Legends: Roland Martin, Bobby Lane. Shaw Grigsby, the list goes on and on. Just some really cool fishing guys. And then we throw a little twist in there with trying to educate people about the environment as well. Sometimes I'm going to start to back off on that a little bit, because I've been really hard on it the last 3 years about, if you're fertilizing your lawn, you're poisoning your lagoon. That sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. And we all know where it's gotten us. I mean, we all know what lawn fertilizers have done to this state. I mean, and herbicides have done to this. We've all seen the damage and destruction that it's done. And I think that message is getting out there. So we're going to go back to just talking a little bit more about fishing. And I think we've got the education part of it out there pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But the show has so many components to it, and it's not scripted. It's like this show. It's turn the mic on and talk.
Yeah.
And if you can't talk about whatever it is that you're supposed to be talking about for whatever the duration of the time is, then you don't know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So people are always like, okay, what are we going to talk about? And what are we going to do? And I'm like, let it eat, bro. Let it eat.
It's hard, like to tell a guest, like, so what are we talking about? But fishing, pretty much, like anything fishing. Like,
we're just going to talk about fish and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Talk about fishing trip you had yesterday. Talk about one of your best days ever. Talk about your most memorable catch, most memorable charter client. We just take it wherever it is. I think that the audience likes that spontaneity. I think that they like that diversity. It's not regimented, and it's just off the cuff, and and we just talk about our passion, and that is fishing, and we talk a little hunting too. A lot of us like to get out there with a little string and some carbon and try and sling a carbon shaft at things once in a while, and we like to squeeze triggers and smell gunpowder, and so we talk about other things as well. Some of those things that outdoor guys like to do, and that's what the show's about. We do it every Saturday from 7 to 9, and we've got about 2 years now worth of archived shows, so you can always go back and listen to archive shows from the year before or the year before that, and see who was on and what we were talking about at that time of the year. It's for me, I go back and I listen to them occasionally. I don't listen to the whole show, but I'll listen to segments of the little shows or little segments of the show, and that tells me, oh, okay, that's what we were talking about at this time 2 years ago, and that same thing's going on right now, or it hadn't happened yet. What's going on this year, and so it just gives you a reference point to go from, which is that's a great thing to have as well. Always have a good solid point of reference whenever you're on the water or whenever you're off the water. It just is it's a great thing to have.
Yeah, we kind of do that with our show as well. We have it on YouTube and Facebook. We keep it up there so we can go back, and like you said, we just started this year, but it's going to be interesting to see maybe 3-4 years down the road what we were talking about and what was going on, and if I forgot about the birds. I'll never forget about the birds at this point. Like that's going to stick with me forever.
If you see anything dead floating,
Go
especially
to it,
a bird, if you see something dead floating, there's a potential for a triple tail to be under it. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
That's insane. Awesome. That's insane. No, Jim, I appreciate you joining us tonight, man. We'll be in touch. I definitely think we should go check out this mullet run and
let's do it.
And definitely, I urge any one of you guys to give this man a call. He will literally help you catch your next memory. Okay, 100%. It'll be an awesome trip. I've been out a couple times with him, and it's always been just a pleasure. So definitely appreciate it, man. Joe, you got anything else?
No, Jim, again, like Andrew said, I appreciate your time, bud, and appreciate the little tips and tricks. For me, I love hearing the story of how the passion started. It seems to always start with a grandpa or a dad or something, and simple fishing, just having fun, just being outside and getting away. And again, dad or grandpa just wants to get away for a little bit and get away from all the hecticness. And it's awesome to hear the story, man. So I appreciate your time and your story and what you're doing, bud. And me and Andrew, possibly. What about Dave? Are we bringing Dave?
He'll have to come.
We'll bring Dave. Dave's cool. We'll bring Dave too.
Dave.
We'll have a good old
time. Have you ever met Dave, Jim? Dave
What's his last name?
Bolema.
I don't think so.
He's a big guy. So. I mean, you would know him if you saw him, if you ever met him. Yeah. But he's Robin's right hand man over at Bass Assassin. So
Dave is the man.
Okay.
Yeah.
We love Dave. Dave has helped me a lot in my career, Jim.
Well, load him up and bring him. We'll go out and we'll have some fun.
Oh yeah,
we'll load him up, but I'm gonna need a bigger truck.
I got the 4x4. It's not running too well right now, so maybe Dave will put her in the grave. But
he's
Jim,
man.
I appreciate your time.
It'll be a blast.
Well, guys, I appreciate you having me on. And, if anybody's interested, I'd love to get them out. If I'm already booked, my son Justin's running charters as well. So, he grew up under me, and he's a pretty darn good fisherman himself. I have to admit, he's not got a decade and a half of fishing under his belt, or 2 decades and a half of fishing under his belt. But he's got, as far as charter fishing goes, but he's grown up since he was in diapers, dipping finger mullet out of my bait well. So he's been on the deck of the boat for a long time himself, and he can take you guys out if I can't get you out. But appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. You have a good night, bud.
You too.
All righty. Dude, the legend.
So what a great dude, man. And like the story behind it all is just like really intriguing to me. I agree, like seeing where he's come from and everything like that, but the knowledge that he just dropped on us about birds.
Dude, the birds just blew my mind. And
I even went to look up, I was
the size of the hole of the mullet, and dude, I don't do much saltwater fishing like that, so all this is new to me. It's just
I just wanted to know, look at this, look how mean this thing looks.
I knew what he was talking about. I just had no idea they went so hard in the paint that they'd snap their necks, or we don't even know what happens, and they just
so hard. They're like kamikaze seagulls.
They implode when they hit the freaking surface or something. And then the fact that they reload with crabs, you can pluck one off, go back an hour later.
They reload not only with crabs, but a new triple tail just appears.
It's like my crabs,
and it respawns.
Dude, could you imagine a 25-pound triple tail?
Dude,
have you ever caught a triple tail?
I have not.
Dude, I've caught a 3-pounder, and it's
I've cast netted one. I've never caught one hook and line, but the one I cast netted was bright yellow. Oh, Dave.
He's still coming.
Yeah.
I want to see how many Bass Assassin lures I can catch fish on during the mullet run.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's just run.
I'm taking a split tail shad.
I'm talking about even like bass lures, RSB worms getting destroyed off rip. Let's be real. I want to throw a logger toad. Vapor shads will probably get smoked, bro.
Dude, vapor shads should get smoked.
Shad assassins, the big ones.
Yes.
Smoked. Dave knows.
I brought a box with me down to see the Watts brothers when Dave and I went to meet up with them and film. I want to bring that box and try to catch one fish on every lure.
Everything.
That would be an epic video.
It would happen. It's going to be epic regardless. Like you said, the mullet run happens. Everything's on go mode.
Mm-hmm.
All we need to do is look for the big openings and toss in there. I think it's going to go down.
Jesus.
Tap out.
Did you
I
hear
want
that?
to catch something on a tap out in saltwater.
What the hell was that?
What? Did your gun go off?
No.
Show me your rifle.
Dude, this just happened.
The spirits, bro.
Like it just
Yeah,
popped
spirit.
up.
What is that? Show me that again.
Huh?
What is that? What are you drinking? Tangerine sparkling water.
Can't wait for it.
Oh, God.
Dude, it's good. It's good. And I've got lime.
Do you see this, Dave?
But see, I don't know if I'm allowed to show this on this show. Like, is Facebook going to, flag us?
Nah. Dude, that is a
I wasn't allowed to sell it in Facebook Marketplace.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. It is 2021, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
y'all go look up the bug assault gun.
Yeah,
okay?
the bug assault gun. Oh, it caught the screen. If the can blows up, it's not. That's right. You shouldn't be drinking that crap.
Great. I just got us flagged.
The 2 W's: water and whiskey. That's all you need. I'm a trading. I'm trading right now, dude. I'm a trader.
Purified.
Walmart was out of Zephyr Hills.
What a loser. What a loser.
I'm sorry,
Purified.
Zephyr Hills.
I've
been trying to get sponsored by Zephyr Hills for 12 years. I've been drinking nothing but Zephyr Hills straight for a long time, and I had to go to the dark side.
What you mean if the can blows up, it's not good? You know how many beers I've drank where the can is broken up?
Dude,
Kevin,
get you a
you should get one. It annihilates freaking flies. I'm not lying. I just shot one earlier before we went live.
Yeah.
I shot one earlier and literally it just exploded.
Tore them apart. But then you got a mess, and then salt gets in your food apparently. Dude, what if the bug juices got in your food?
No, because it was on the other side, and I missed the first time, so I know what shot it came from. I'm in the clear.
Or
and even then, I would probably still eat it. It's all right.
Does it only accept salt? Can you put Everglades in there and really hit them? Just really give it to put some cayenne pepper.
Are you gonna make me do this?
Put some
Different
cayenne
kinds of
pepper
salt.
Could
I put
them.
Could I put like coarse salt in there?
Sea salt,
like buckshot them.
Oh God, that's where the horse flies when they get real big. But either way, guys, that was Jim Ross, okay? And I've been watching this guy a very long time. I grew up watching Jim Ross and learning from him.
I can put a peppercorn in there.
Dude, you should.
Sorry. Okay.
Dude,
yeah,
we just had Jim Ross. I'm talking about the salt gun or whatever it's called. Dude, Jim Ross, legend. He just dropped a bunch of knowledge on us, guys. We still have his website. We have his phone number up there. Pay him a visit. Right now is when you want to go. Get booked before me and Andrew take that day away from you, because it's going to be epic. Like he said, he's a spinner sharks. You got jacks, you got snooks, redfish, trout. You're going to catch something.
I went out with him to film 2 years ago, and within 3 hours we caught.
Wasn't there a cuda? Was that a cuda?
We caught a kingfish, a barracuda. We caught
jacks. I'm assuming.
We didn't catch any jacks that day. But we caught tarpon. We caught all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
In 3 hours,
It was all within 2 hours. We were out there longer, but 2 hours.
It just kept happening, right? Yeah, that's awesome. And that's who you want. You want somebody that knows the waters.
And what was
that knows
there was these guys fishing this bait pod, and they couldn't get anything hooked. I saw one guy hook something and broke off. Jim pulls up on the other side of the bait pod. He's like, "Well, this is unethical, but we're going to catch one anyway."
Not supposed to do this, but
no. Well, he knew the guy. He knew the guy
that was
on the other boat. But it was just funny because not only did he call his shot, but Justin certainly hooked one. That was the jumps that you saw in the one video. We'll play that video one day, and yeah, dude, ended up landing it right there, tail slap and all. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, the clean tail slap. Yeah,
it was a clean tail slap.
Clean tail slap. Well, look, guys, until Tuesday at 1. We're done. That was Jim Ross. Book your trip right now. The mullet run is happening. It's upon us. Catch your big fish. Have fun with Captain Jim. You're going to have a great time. You're going to catch a lot of fish. And we will
Do
see
it.
you Tuesday at 1. We're out.
Do it.